Our life.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday, April 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Financial Advisory Commission of the City of Annapolis. Great to have a nice turnout. And just for the record, we have with us commission members Frank Brown, Ed Meehan, Patrick Bannon, uh, myself, Fred Sussman as chair, and two new members are with us today, Joe Rubino and Peter Vale. Welcome, guys. Uh, and we have Alderman Arnett, Alderman Huntley, new finance director, Brittany Moran. Good morning, Brittany. And Victoria Buckland, deputy city manager. And did I miss anybody? Oh, Jody Dickinson, financial consultant for the city, formerly finance director. Uh, okay, did I miss anybody? No, great. So welcome. Uh, First order of business, I sent out a proposed agenda. Have your commission members had an opportunity to review it? And if so, do you have any revisions or corrections for the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted. Motion made by uh, Frank Brown, seconded by Ed Meehan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all commission members in favor of approving the agenda, raise your right hand. And uh, looks like it's unanimous. The agenda is approved as presented. Next, we have minutes from our March 13th, 2025 regular meeting. Kat, thanks for putting the minutes together. We all had opportunity to review the minutes. If so, any revisions or corrections? Seeing and hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 13th, 2025 meeting of the Financial Advisory Commission. Motion made by Ed Meehan, seconded by Frank Brown. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Appears opposed? Abstentions? Uh, Okay, two abstentions, and that's from those members of the commission who were not members of the commission at the time of that meeting. So anyway, approved without objection. Next, we'll go to introductions. There's a transition going on in staff and commission members. First, I'd like to welcome Brittany Moran, new finance director. Brittany, good morning. Good morning.
Good
Uh,
morning.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I hope you're not too overwhelmed. I hope Jody left things in good shape for you.
I confirmed the second part. The first part, I am a little overwhelmed right now, but we'll get there.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Why don't you just take 30 seconds and tell the commission members a little bit about yourself, professional background?
Yep. So I came from the town of Chesapeake Beach, and previously, or prior to that, I was with Queen Anne's County in the budget office. In Chesapeake Beach, I was the treasurer, so I kind of wore many hats, involved in all things financial. Um, and that's pretty much it. I live locally, and it's nice to meet everyone.
Well, nice to see you, Brittany. Look forward to working with you for a while.
You too.
Good, thanks. I don't know, did we ever meet when you were in Chesapeake Beach?
We did.
I think we did.
Yep, briefly.
Okay. Uh, well, thank you for that intro. And we have two new commission members, Joe Rubino and Peter Vale. I'll ask each of them to take about 30 seconds and just tell the rest of the group who you are, what your background is, etc. Lots to cover in 30 seconds, but do your best. And we'll start with Joe.
Morning, everybody. Looking forward to working with everyone. Happy to be here. Born and raised in Annapolis. Traveled around with the Navy for a bunch of years. I retired out of the Pentagon about 2001, and the superintendent Naval Academy made me an offer I couldn't refuse to do some legislative work for the Academy. I'd been in Navy's Office of Leg Affairs, and over the years, that's kind of morphed into current title as Chief Financial Officer for the Naval Academy. But I have the Human Resources Department, comptroller, so personnel, money, the resourcing of the Academy, and I sit on the boards of Naval Academy Athletic Association and the Naval Academy Alumni Association Foundation. So I can kind of see all of the people and resources in motion for the superintendent, and our business services, which the city has some interface, I guess, with our visitor center and other things. They work for me. So the business operations fall under me. So been happy to be back in Annapolis for a while. I see some old friends here and some new friends. So looking forward to working with everyone.
Looking forward with working with you, Joe, and thanks for the intro. Even though I got to tell you, it was about 42 seconds. I thought Navy guys would both be prompt. Anyway, great talking to you, great having you, and look forward to working with you. Peter Vale, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Hey everyone.
You can take 42 seconds too if you want.
Thanks. I should get commensurate time. Peter Vale, moved to Annapolis in 2017. Mostly worked in for-profit companies, a little bit of time at Amtrak, Giant Food for 8 years, and now currently working for a nonprofit consulting company. I was tapped by Jim Cardillo. We have some mutual connections from way back in our pasts, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone and learning more about the city of Annapolis and how it functions. Thanks.
Great. Good having you, Peter, and I look forward to working with you as well. Anybody have any questions of our three introductees? No? Great. See, you got Brittany and Peter and Joe. You did so good on your first introduction. Nobody has any questions for you. So moving right along to reports. Brittany, this is your first report as finance director. Do you have anything to tell us?
I do not have anything to add right now. I know Jody has a couple things that we're going to touch on today. And then I'm just seeing the lay of the land.
Okay, how's things going in the finance department? Are you fully staffed yet, or are you still working on that?
No, we're still working on that. We are down some resources, so that's a challenge. It's a lot of work for a small group of people. So we are looking to hire. We have an assistant position open and a AP contractual position open that we're looking to fill. So that should help.
Good. All right. And just so you know, on every agenda, finance department report will be in essentially the same part of the agenda as it is today. So it's your opportunity to tell us what's going on in the finance department and anything we should know finance-wise. Okay?
Great. And I will add what you probably already are aware of, that we're just in the thick of budget. So that's what we're doing.
That's right. And we'll talk about that a few minutes later. But thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your first report. Okay. Any questions of the new finance director? Hearing none. City managers report. Victoria, good morning.
Good morning. The only thing that I will note is that you probably are aware that Mike Malinoff, the city manager, will be stepping back in about a month. And so I will end up moving into a more acting role when that happens. So obviously we have the good fortune of still having him through the last of the budget development and introduction with council. But just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that upcoming change.
Anything we can expect differently, with that change?
I don't think so. My task obviously is, we're coming up on the elections. So, it's to really get us through that period until we get through all of that. The cities, we're trying to wrap up a whole bunch of things. So and just make progress on a number of fronts. So that work will continue.
Okay, great. Anybody have any questions of Victoria? No, hearing none. Thank you.
Sorry,
Let
Brent.
the record reflect that, Jim Cardillo, is here and came in about, 8 minutes ago. So he's been quietly sitting as other introductions were made, et cetera, et cetera. But, I'm gonna turn it over to Jim now. Any audit committee report?
Thank you. Thank you. I was sitting in the waiting room, waiting to be accepted along with, I think, Vicky and maybe Alderman Huntley as well. We were, I listened to all the intro parts and thank you for accepting me into the meeting. The audit committee met on the 17th of March. The biggest part of the meeting was a discussion on the quarterly performance measures that the assistant city manager facilitates with department heads. And we got an update on the performance measures through the second quarter, which was December 31st, excuse me. And we discussed the ways that the audit committee can best serve the mayor and city council members as to the monitoring and maintenance of the operational performance measures. And that was probably the majority of the discussion.
Just for Peter and Joe's sake, Jim is the Financial Advisory Commission's representative on the City Audit Committee. And who else is on that committee? Not named, but position.
We have 3 members of the city council. There are 3 citizen members currently filled by 2 and 1 vacancy, which I believe Alderman Arnett expects to fill shortly. He can confirm that.
Anybody have any questions of Jim on his Audit Committee report? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
Unfinished business. Spending affordability. Alderman Arnett, you submitted a revised draft of the legislation we discussed at our prior meeting. And I have provided that to all members of the committee, of the commission, to kind of review. I know that I provided you with some comments, and I wasn't able to discern where, if and where, most of those comments were incorporated or reviewed. Can you share with us, the differences between what we have before us now, which is version 3.3, and the prior version?
Happy to do that. So version
Thank you.
3.3 reflects initial comments from both you as the chair of the FAC and from Director Dickinson. It does not reflect the comments that you made, and I don't know whether your comments were based on version 3.3 or 3.2, but there's some additional suggestions that you've made about wording. I have not had time to sit down with the Cynthia Reuter from the Office of Law to go over these. You gave us 5 new recommendations. One of them has to do with language talking about adding something to the annual budget. That's your first revision, and there's some other wording changes in that. That was in an earlier draft and taken out by the Office of Law. The thought there was that it's up to the fact to get any budget needs they have to the finance department and to the council for inclusion in the budget, and might not be appropriate to be in the ordinance itself. I haven't had a chance to vet that thoroughly. So that was one change. Another change was in the code 248 130A2 to change administration to mayor. I think I will resist that one because there are several. Administration is meant to encompass the mayor, the city manager, and the finance director, all three of whom all three of those entities should be able to have access to the fact to talk about the financial affordability. Let me step back
Wait,
quickly.
Alderman Arnett, can I ask you a question? Before you go
Yeah,
on?
but maybe what we need to do first for the new members is discuss what the spending affordability legislation is about. So if I could take a quick second to do that, and then we can.
And you may take more than 42 seconds.
All right. So spending affordability is something that is used quite a bit by the state, by many of the counties, and it is purchasing from outside vendors economic forecasts for a number of factors, but it's mainly revenue expectation based kinds of information. What are we expecting in terms of population growth, and how would that affect income? How is the general environment affecting income tax revenues? How is it affecting property revenues and other things of that nature? And the vendor that we're focusing on is actually a consortium of 5 different economic forecasters. It's run out of Towson University. What's Jody? I can't think of the name of the group now.
The initials are Resi,
Resi, right?
RESI. I can't remember off the top of my head what the initials stand for.
And that Resi is the group that is used by both the state and Anne Arundel County. And Jody and Jake of the finance staff have had conversations with them. Pleasingly, does not seem like it's going to be expensive to hook into that vendor. But so anyway, that's the background. Now, Fred, I don't know how much you want to tease out the individual comments. Basically, the bottom line is from your comments of March 13th. I haven't had the chance to sit down with Cynthia and go over them. So I basically will reflect that I've received them and have reviewed them. Quite frankly, like some of them seem to be wordsmithing that I don't have a problem with. So I don't think there's going to be things. I'm looking at your change 4 where you add the clause extent practicable. That's fine with me. So anyway,
Alderman, let me ask you this. Focus for a second on the one about administration.
yes.
Came that to mayor. Is the reason I made that change was I'm not aware, and maybe it's just my ignorance, that the term administration is defined or used in the charter or in the code. And the mayor is the head of the executive branch, responsible for preparing and submitting a budget to the city council. So that's why I thought it might be more appropriate to refer to mayor as opposed to just administration in the 3 or 4 places I mentioned. So just so you know where I was coming from.
So, all right. So those who are following the bouncing ball, this is on page 3 of 4, and it's at the top half of the page, and it's in 2.48030 A, which is spending affordability, subsection 2. We'll have to noodle on that in the Office of Law. It actually, the mayor rarely gets down to the level of looking at these kinds of details in the budget. I've never known one to do that. It's usually the city manager and most definitely the finance director, but maybe we need to have more expansive wording there. And I think that's just something I'll noodle with Cynthia Reuter on.
Yeah, appreciate that. I just wanted to explain to you what my thinking was.
Sure.
So, all right, go ahead.
I see several hands. That's actually, first of all, we ought to recognize the work that Ed Meehan and before that Bob Burden did in getting us to this point. And it's something that I have long thought was a good thing to do, and it's especially since it's so relatively inexpensive, an easy thing to do. We just have to get it in code.
Let me just ask Jody for a second. Jody, and you sent out an email to, I know at least me, I don't know who else, about Resi and some communications that you or your staff have had with them. And maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed to me that they were saying that they weren't real enthusiastic about taking
Yeah.
something like this on.
Yeah, I was gonna add to what Alderman Arnett said. We have we met with one of the representatives and talked about what we needed, and they do this work for the county, and they prepare a report on some of the economic factors for the county and deliver that to their spending affordability committee, and that committee then puts together their own report using that information and making recommendations to the council for the county's budget, upcoming budget. But we asked if some of the economic factors could be studied on a more local level because the city has different issues and a different economy, and we're more heavily weighted to tourism, that type of thing, and we have a lot of non-taxable property in the city of Annapolis, and so we asked if they would be able to target the city more carefully in their recommendations and their analysis. And they wrote back eventually and said they didn't think that they would be able to give us any more detail about the city. And so for that reason, would not enter into a contract with us to provide any additional services. And they recommended that we work with the county on their report and use the information in their report. And he said they'd be happy to make a presentation to the FAC or our spending affordability group, whatever that is, about the economic factors that they're projecting for the area. But they didn't really think they had anything to add that directly related to Annapolis. So as far as cost, as of right now, the cost is zero. And then if we could find another, I don't know if we can find another group that can do a little bit more analysis, and that may require more funding. I don't know who's out there that does this type of work. So we're not really back to square one. He did provide a copy of their report that they gave to the county, and the spending affordability committee's recommendations that resulted from that. And I've asked the county, who told me that the spending affordability committee's report is public. The report that they got from Resi was not public, but I could share it with the FAC. But people from Resi and the county wouldn't answer questions that came from the report, but that I could distribute it to you. So that's the update on our work with them. So we do have resources. It's just, I don't know if you had in mind anything more detailed for the city, wanted somebody to dig deeper as far as our socioeconomic factors that impact the city.
Alderman Arnett, based on what we just heard from Jody about Resi, does that alter your thinking at all about the legislation or how and from whom the FAC would be able to get resources to help it do its job?
I'm disappointed. I did not know this latest bit of information, and I am concerned about it. But the reality is the major difference, Annapolis is in Anne Arundel County. Sometimes we forget that. And the major difference between us and the county is the mix of revenue. We're much more dependent on property tax. But the overall economic environment for Annapolis is largely the same as the environment for Anne Arundel County. Things like current situation with tariffs having impact on the economy and possibly then impact on tourism. First of all, tourism unfortunately gives the city more costs than it does revenues because we don't share in the sales tax. But I think that if we can partner with the county and work with them, the allocation of the sources of revenue are well known, and the impacts I think are going to be general. But I'm not sure that there is any other. There are other vendors. I think there's at least two other vendors, but none of them have the others have as broad a base of economic forecasters. And I do think there's some strength in having this same group be the forecasters for both the county and the state. But I wasn't aware of this new information, and I'd certainly like to sit down with the director and find out more about that. And I think it's really urgent that we have a sit down with the county and understand what kind of relationship we're going to have with them.
Okay, and I don't disagree with you, Alderman, but the question I would ask you is whether this new information essentially says, let's hold up on the legislation until we get more information about the availability of resources that to the FAC to help the FAC do its job. There's no way on this God's earth, I don't think, that the FAC can fulfill the responsibilities of the draft legislation without professional assistance.
I think that's what we need to find out is what the level of professional assistance. But what I was thinking is, I heard this from Director Dickinson, is that it does put more of a burden on the FAC to interpret it, if any step down from economic impacts on the county are different than impacts on the city. And it's not clear to me they are, but that's certainly something that would need to be analyzed. And pursuant to one of the changes that you are recommending to the current draft, may well be that that you need some economic input in addition to just getting the forecast from Resi. And so that's something that would have a cost impact, and we'd have to figure that out. But I'm not inclined to stop the legislation. I think that we've waited way too long for it, and the legislation basically puts in place the ability for the city to seek these kinds of, and for the FAC to seek these kinds of inputs. I don't think it stops us from the desirability of having these outside economic forecasts.
Okay, I appreciate your thoughts on that, Alderman. So we'll stand by, wait, see if there's another draft based on my comments and wherever you think it's going to go from
A
here.
number of hands up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, thank you for that presentation, and Jody for the supplementary explanation. And what hand, I see Jody's hand, Peter's hand, Jim's hand. So that will go in that order.
Joe's hand.
Starts, and then if anybody else has comments or questions, raise your hand and you'll be recognized. So
I was just going to add that I think before you make decisions, I will distribute that report, both reports. The report that came from the economists and the report that the Spending Affordability Committee issued, that's publicly available. You can probably get that on the county's website, but I'll send all that out to you and then you can look at it, see what's in there. I haven't read it all fully, several pages long, pretty detailed. So there might be enough there that you feel you could use it, but again, there are some special situations in the city's economy that change how it should look at its revenue sources and its budget.
Okay, thanks, Jody, and look forward to receiving that from you. And there's nothing, I don't think, that's on the back table at this moment. It's all still preliminary. We're not being asked to give a opinion on legislation that's been introduced or anything like that. So we'll keep working with you, Alderman Arnett, so hopefully we can all get to the same place. Next, Peter, and then Jim. You, Peter.
Every time. Thank you, Chairman. My one question for the finance director or the group at large. I mean, prior to having a spending affordability report in place, what tools or what information is the city of Annapolis using to arrive at their projections for revenue, in place of a spending affordability report?
That would be for you, Jody.
Yes, I'm not really the director, but I've got more background in it. So it is based on, it's basically I would say it's a combination of we in the finance office use what we have and what we can gather to project revenues. And we use that as a starting point, building the budget. Then we build out the expenses, typically on a same services level, and then consider supplemental requests as they come in accordance with how much we have to spend. And that is combined, but then it goes through the scrutiny of, we discuss with department heads, the city manager, deputy city manager, the mayor, to talk about priorities and things they want to do, new things they want to put in the budget, that type of thing. So then we decide if we have the revenue to do it. So there's no formal analysis on our part as far as employment factors, other economic factors affecting the region. Just a sense from what the council and the mayor and the city manager have in their priorities listing and their understanding of what the constituents are wanting.
I will add to that when we have those discussions, part of that is looking at what has been the historical trend in terms of revenues, what has happened with property tax assessments when that's a relevant year. And I know that the budget office also then consults with the county to sort of validate their experience. So it's not like there's no contact with the county budget office. So I think there are a number of, obviously that's not the kind of in-depth analysis that Jody referenced, where you're looking at employment factors and things like that. But it's not like it's just, it's not that either.
Well, if I could interject, because this is my legislative baby. There's two factors for needing this outside group. First of all, I don't think there's a single economist on the city's staff, and this is an economic group. Secondly, they look far out. They look out 4 or 5 years. We tend to look at next year. And this is a point that I think Jim Cardillo has made effectively over time, that when we make budget decisions for the coming year, we really need to be looking beyond that. And it's beyond that in terms of unexpected or expected tails to an out-year commitment to a purchase that has much bigger consequences in the following years. But we still are not looking at the spending affordability, the likelihood of revenue growth or non-growth. And Maryland is a pretty bad state in terms of economic growth. We're much slower than our peers, but it is injecting that kind of outside purview and the longer term outlook for revenue that can marry with our long-term outlook for the spending prospects of the current year budget. I actually agree with Jim. I don't think and man, I can't speak for the finance department, but I don't think the council takes a lot of thinking about, well, gee, this is what we're spending in fiscal 26, but what does that mean for 27, 28, and 29? And so we can buy into a budget that seems just fine for the current year, but didn't anticipate the upsurge in spending in out years, which, and particularly this is capital, but does have a big impact on the budget. So I'm still very strongly of the opinion that we need this outside look, and I've always argued that the city needs to have a closer relationship with the county. We live in the county.
Any questions of Alderman Arnett? Peter, your questions answered to some degree or 100%?
100% answered. Thank you. No, I really just trying to understand, what our current baseline level is for making those projections and what the value of adding this. I know there would be value, but just, trying to understand what we're doing now and what this will help with in the future. Thank you.
Sure. Jim Cardillo.
Thank you, Fred. I'm a little unclear as to the timing with regards to let's go back. The revisions to the legislation that are occurring and the timing of implementing the spending affordability plan. Do we have funds allocated in the FY26 budget to accomplish this? Because of the timing of this legislation getting approved, and I don't know, I want to know if this is going to be applicable to be spent during the FY26 year.
I can speak to that if you want, Fred.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we'll go through one more round of revisions. We'll come up with 3.4 in response to the comments made by Fred. I also want to farm this. I'm particularly happy that Harry is attending this meeting. I'd like to get a couple of co-sponsors, but it would seem very appropriate for the current chair of the Finance Committee to be a co-sponsor. So we have to have those conversations. I've talked about this with Alderman Savage, but I think Harry and I need to have a get-together. I would like to see this introduced at the second meeting in April, which is concurrent with, we received the mayor's budget Monday night. It will be coming to the city council, the finance committee on Monday night. And the finance committee will turn the budget over to the city council the second Monday in May. And at that point is when we start getting amendments to the budget from the council members that all get adjudicated usually the second Monday in June, an all-day meeting. And I will be sure now, I just got the new information from Jody. If this is just going to be a partnership with the county, then I'm not sure what the cost is. I had heard that it was a few $1,000s for them to just piggyback us in getting the report, which is not a big financial burden, but certainly I will be monitoring this for my part in participation in the budget process.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett. And I'll hold off on a question for later about partnership with the county, but thank you.
Okay, do I see any other hands up?
Now, with regards to the funding for this in FY26?
With regard to anything? No, with regard to what we just been talking about. Jody, did you see?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I'm not sure that anything specifically was added. The finance office has a reserve for contractual services that we would depend on for things like this. And the audit committee, well, that's the audit committee, so that's not gonna be applied. They have a little bit of funding in the budget as well, but that's not applicable in this case, sorry. And this, if it was just a couple of $1,000s, that's something we could absorb within what we have set aside. If it's gonna be something larger and their comments were that originally we were having the conversation, the gentleman was surmising on the call, it wouldn't be much more because they just have to do a little bit more analysis. But when they looked into it, decided they really couldn't evaluate anything in more detail and then wouldn't be entering into a contract for the services. So I think it would have to be somebody else doing it. And like I said, I don't know what they would charge to start digging in deeper as to our issues.
Ed Meehan.
Thanks. So two quick things. One is I think we're all in agreement from our prior discussions that we need, as was mentioned briefly today, somebody to help this commission pull the financial analysis together. So we definitely will need some input. It is not clear to me either what the concerns are coming from Resi in terms of what they think they can or cannot do. So to get a little more clarification on that in further discussions would be helpful. I would think at a minimum, they or someone in that field could help take the county data and present information to the commission in a way that we can get a deeper understanding of what the differences are with the city. So I think we definitely need the services of an economic-based consultant, to help us pull that together. So I think we're in agreement on that. So I don't think that's falling out of this idea. But the second point is in at least the version I'm looking at, hopefully I'm up on the latest one, but in the section 110C, where the reference is to a consultant or consultants being hired, it reads, or it could be read as that the commission is hiring the consultant and determining what to pay the consultant. And I would expect that could be clarified, that the commission is not the employer, and it wouldn't be that the commission members would be the ones, who would necessarily be involved in the hiring. Rather that, it could be clarified so that the budget shall include sufficient funding necessary to have the consultant. So that's just a little bit of a language issue.
It's actually something that Fred has offered as an amendment in his latest group of things. It's 110C. The annual budget shall include sufficient funds as reasonably estimated by the commission to be sufficient to engage such consultants. Now, I think you're right. The fact itself can't engage the consultants. The city would be the contracting partner, but it would be on behalf of the needs of the fact.
Right. Yeah. And that type of language, I could look more closely at the wording. Sorry, I missed that, but that definitely gets much closer to the issue.
Okay, other questions, comments on the spending affordability generally, or any of the specific topics we talked about?
But Fred, if I may add only, and this I can do in well under 42 seconds, I promise, is I do want to emphasize a comment that Alderman Arnett made to the effect that this is something we've been working on for a long time, and I do think we need to move forward in a productive way. That doesn't mean we rush through and we ignore any final issues, but it is something that's very important, and I think a lot of people have contributed to it, and I think it's going to be something to be very beneficial to the city. So hopefully in the near future we can wrap it up and begin to implement.
Great, thanks for your comments, Ed, much appreciated. Other comments or questions? If not, we'll move forward and look forward to seeing a version 3.4 or whenever is convenient. Thank you. All right, moving to, I think we covered the unfinished business, spending affordability, both topics. Let's move to the new business, the CAFR. Jody, I think you said you would take the lead on giving a brief presentation about the CAFR. And then I know that I think Jim Cardillo has some questions and maybe other people do as well. So let me turn it over to you. Jody?
I'm gonna share my screen. I sent this report to you. Oh wait, I think I'm sharing the wrong way. Can you see the report?
Yes.
But hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing because I think that I'm sharing my whole screen and not just a tab. Hold on.
All we see is the ACFR tab.
Application windows, that's why it's here, there. Okay, I just didn't, if something else popped up or something, you might see it if it's the whole screen. And I was not just sharing the tab, so hopefully you can see it now. Can you see it now? Okay, I changed it to the tab view. All right, so I distributed this, is called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and the acronym is ACFR. And they intentionally changed that because the other acronym sounded like a derogatory term, so they switched it around to say Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and that's been in place for a few years now. So, you know, we don't, though it used to be the CAFR acronym, it's now ACFR. So just for your information. So this ACFR that we have here is as you can see, it's the PDF is 161 pages. It's quite an effort to pull together. And I invite you all to, if you haven't already, look at the report. And since it's got so much information in it, I would first direct you to the management discussion and analysis section that's in the front of the report. You can find that, let's see, on page right, okay, it's starts on page 12. And it does an analysis of the fluctuations and the things that have changed year over year. But the GFOA requires that we not only say what changed, but explain the reason why. So that's why it's useful to read that section particularly, so you can have an idea on what's happened during the year, what changed, and what caused those significant changes. And we won't go through all of that today, but if you look through that and you have questions, please send them to me or to Brittany, and we'll be glad to dig in and answer your question. We had a solid year in 24. It took us a while to get this report out, and most of that's just the logistics of trying to pull all the information together. And while we're working on the audit request, the auditors actually helped us with this report this year, pull together the PDF document, so we had a little help from them. But with the shorthanded staff and losing the key person in the number 2 spot, it took us a while to get it out. So that's another thing I apologize for. This has not been discussed with the audit committee, and that's happening a week from Monday. So I invite you all, if you want to watch that meeting, we'll talk. The auditors are gonna come to the meeting and present, as they are required to present to the governance board, the results of the audit and the audit report and the other supplemental reports that come with this. 24 was a good year. And the report on page 27, and I don't want to make everybody dizzy by scrolling through. people do this to me, I have to close my eyes because I look, most of what we do in government is look at these statements here. They're called modified accrual statements. This is the general fund statements here, which is a lot of the focus for constituents and for the city itself. This outlines what we would typically call the balance sheet. We have here the capital reserve fund, again, here is very strong, 9.4 million. And although we used a bit of that, some 4 to 5 million in the year, for 24, we were able to replenish it at the end of the year based on the results. And then the budget stabilization fund, that 3.7 million is at its cap. So it can't get any larger. And this 18.6 down here is the 15% fund balance reserve we are required to set aside at the end of every year before we start adding to our reserves. So we've got our 15% here, and we've got the capital reserve and the budget stabilization fund, and any other funds that are excess that we don't have committed go in this other one-time reserve that we use for only expenses that are occurring only once. So we don't try to build it into our recurring budget expenses. So this statement here and this one here, here's your revenues and expenses for the year for the general fund. So again, this is a page that you may want to focus on. General fund's at about $100 million, and we came out a little bit ahead, 3.4 million increase in the fund balance for the general fund. And if you want to see the budget detail, the budget versus what we took in revenues in the budget versus what we had appropriated for expense, that's back on page 92. And as I scroll through this, you can see why it takes a long time to pull it together, especially with a limited staff. This right here is a consolidated budgetary statement, and your revenues are in this section here, but they're in small categories, and your expenses are down here again in a consolidated basis. But if you go to page 92, you'll see a bigger breakout on the budget side of the revenues, more detail, what the amended budget is, and what we actually recognized. And then here's the expenses broken down by department, by budget line item. So this is something that you may want to peruse, and if you have any questions on that, be glad to answer that. So at this time, I haven't prepared anything in particular to highlight changes. I don't know if anybody has any particular questions you want to ask about fund results, anything you noticed when you were reviewing the ACFR.
Okay. Jim, I think you had some questions or comments, didn't you?
Just briefly, is this the first year that we are in the joint partnership with the county on the Resiliency Authority?
No, well, we've had a partnership with the Resilience Authority for quite a few years, and I don't, they didn't become active till just recently, so you're maybe getting more
it was authorized,
more press. I don't know if Vicky has any more details. This last year or so, we've done a couple different task agreements with them for them to help us with work. So the Resilience Authority and our partnership has been in existence for a while, but it has been more active in the last year or so.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment.
Thanks. Do we get their audited reports?
Not that I know of. I mean, I'm sure they're available and we can ask them for it. And I'm not even sure what, I think they do go through an audit process. I've had a couple conversations with Teresa about, she's on the board, about the audit and financial information. So I do think they have an audit. I just haven't asked for the final report. for instance, we've contracted with them to help us do the work on the beach erosion project for Cars Beach. They're helping us with that project, and we've asked them to help us with a couple other things as well.
Okay, thanks. I'm looking for,
I'm sure they'd be available. You probably have to look on the county's website because they're a fund of the county. They're an agency of the county, so.
okay. I thought there was something in the city legislation about the requirements of the Resilience Authority as it reports to the city as well.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah, I'm
You may
trying
be
to
sending them
remember
to
that.
somebody else, not me.
All
They're
right,
not, they're not
Jim, I'll
included
look
in our
at it.
financial statements, only to the extent where we are contracting with them as a vendor would we see transactions.
That's
Yeah,
right. I recall that, that their debt is their debt and
Mhm.
their projects are their projects. But I thought that there's a reporting function back to the city.
That's something I can follow up with. The deputy city manager for resilience and sustainability obviously has a pretty close relationship with them. And I can do some follow up with her to find out the answer to that question.
Thank you, Vicki.
Jim, other comments or questions?
None right now. I haven't gone through it yet. I will report back to the FAC briefly at the May meeting on the presentation from the audit firm and what occurs at the next audit committee meeting.
Great, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Jody, maybe I missed it in your presentation, but what's the bottom line here for FY 24? Positive, negative, how much?
No, I would call it quite positive. We had the same positive, if you recall the previous years. And you look here on the budget statement and you can see that the revenues, compared to budget, you're looking at a difference of 1.1 million. So we're just a little over our expectations there, pretty close. The expenditures, again, we've had a lot of savings in 24 and end of the year, excuse me, sorry for all the scrolling. Right here, $9 million under budget. And a lot of that, again, is in the public safety departments, police, namely, that have savings to their budget because of vacancies, even over and above the turnover that we apply to the budget. For instance, here, police, country, that 9 million, 3.582 was police and almost 2 million was fire. So that's it. And if you look through, the rest of it is just kind of scattered throughout the departments. Nothing significant there. So the revenues are close, the expenses are still under, and it's got a lot to do with vacancies as it has in the past.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody have any comments on those supplemental comments from Jody?
Oh yeah, I had one question for Jody. I see on page 147 there is a full-time equivalent employees by function, and just seeing the big variance, positive variance for public safety. Do we have a full org chart to compare against the 625 individuals that were, or FTE equivalents in 2024? Like how many positions down there are? Is that anywhere in the document?
Not in the document. We do present a table in the budget, the operating budget book, that tells you how many employees we have in each department and gives you the full table, and labels them based on whether they're full-time or part-time. I don't recall if we still have the full-time equivalent column on there or not. But yeah, that's there, but we don't publish in that table the vacancies. If you're looking to see, here's how all the departments, here's all the positions they have, and here's the vacancies that they have. That information is typically discussed as the departments do their presentations with the council. And we can get a list of vacancies and summarize them if that's something that the FAC would like us to do, but that is not readily available, not with the vacancy information.
Great, thank you.
And Alderman Arnett.
That's actually brings up an interesting point. I've often wondered whether the FAC also gets the budget binder that the council will be receiving, because those tables are in the budget binder we receive as we get into the budget deliberations. Now, I will warn you, it's at least a 3-inch thick 3-ring binder, but it is chock full of all kinds of information, more detail like that the council needs to use when it's doing its budget analysis.
We do give, so what's in that binder is basically the legislation that's being proposed, that actually enacts the budget. And it has the budget book with tabs in it. And then it provides you space for those extra things that we add, that we provide to the finance committee and the council as we're going through the process. So it's basically the budget book and the legislation at first, and then we fill it, we provide other information during the proceedings, and you keep them in your binder for those of you who want a binder. So that is publicly available. The proposed operating and proposed capital budgets are going to be posted online on April 14th, a week from, Monday morning, or Monday afternoon, actually, right before the council meeting. We don't want to preempt the mayor's comments on the budget. So we post those right before the meeting.
Thank you, Jody. Any other questions of Jody on the CAFR? CAFR.
ACFR.
Yeah, whatever it is. No.
You can just say the annual financial report, and I'll know.
Annual financial report, I like that. That's easier to say. Okay, moving right along. Go into FY 26 budget status. Jody or Brittany, whoever wants to tackle it. Where are we in the budget preparation, and what's the timetable look like?
Do you want me to take that one, Brittany? I mean,
Sure. I was just gonna say that.
Jody, can you stop the screen share?
oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yep.
That's okay.
I was just gonna share that we are in the thick of it, and we are getting ready. I mean, the mayor's budget will be introduced on Monday. And then we'll go from there. So it's wrapping up on that first line as a draft. And then after that, there'll be obviously, council input and so forth. Jody, you want to add any?
That was basically what I was going to say. We're in the final throes. Brittany and I have been reviewing Jake's drafts this week, and we've got some more reviewing to do today and tomorrow. And just to find anything, and they're wrapping up the final documents, so that we're in the final steps of that, as Brittany indicated.
Okay, anybody have any questions about the current budget the FY 26 budget status?
Yeah, I do. I apologize. Are there additional joint finance committee FAC meetings that we should add to the calendar for FAC participation?
There's a very detailed budget calendar out there. There is a work session scheduled at some point. I'm not going to be able to tell you off the top of my head. There is a meeting where Davenport is going to present on our debt affordability, and that's typically a combined FAC finance committee.
Well, then I would ask Kat to add that to the FAC.
Yeah.
calendar.
So I don't know when that is, but it is scheduled. I'll just have to make sure you all have the budget schedule.
I was just gonna ask Jody if you could, I think we got it at one point in time months ago.
Mhm.
If you could resend it, you or Brittany, or your staff, you'd resend it out, be helpful.
Yeah, and
Thank
then you'll want to schedule any of your meetings around that too.
Thank you.
Jody,
That,
we have a we usually get, after we receive the budget, a work session where we get a PowerPoint presentation, again, usually from the city manager. I see this coming Thursday, the 17th, we have a work session. Is that going to be when the council gets that typical presentation?
I believe so. I
Yes.
believe it would be, I don't know, Vicky, if you have talked to Jake about who all's going to do that, I may not be in that presentation. Brittany will likely be there. Vicky, Mike Malinoff, I'm not sure if Mike's going to participate. I don't know what the plans are right now.
Yeah, obviously, Jake, Brittany, I'll be there, and I anticipate Mike being there as well.
So we typically get two presentations. One's an overview of the operating budget, and the other is an overview of the capital budget. They usually come quite close to when the council receives the budget. And then, as I said earlier, key dates for the council are receipt of the budget on the second Monday of April, receipt of the Finance Committee report the second Monday of May, and the council has to wrap up the budget by certainly the middle of June. I think after next week, the Finance Committee is meeting every day, starting at, I think it's 10 o'clock, Monday through Friday for the next couple of weeks. And those are open to the public. They actually can be quite interesting if you want to know the operations of each of the individual departments. So it's going to be a very busy time in the next couple of months for the Finance Committee for sure, but the City Council as well. But those overviews, David Gerald used to do a really great job of pulling together the PowerPoint slides that give an overview of the operating budget and then give an overview of the capital budget. And those would certainly be good to get to the FAC members also.
just FYI, I hate to tell you guys, but I'm not gonna be around for most of the budget season. I'll be overseas, through the middle part of May, probably from, the 6th or so through almost, Memorial Day. Mentioned it to Jim and asked him to kind of honcho, the FAC operations, when I'm gone. So, in first budget session I've missed in a long time. So. Any comments, questions? Jim, you're not ducking out, are you?
I will step up to your level of involvement.
I greatly appreciate. Any comments, questions? Our next regular meeting is May, was it May 8th?
May 8th.
At 8 a.m. Zoom. As usual, we'll have to decide whether we need any special meetings before or after that, deal with the budget issues. I know typically we usually have at least one special meeting, but I don't recall right offhand whether that was before or after our May regular meeting. Jim, do you recall?
I believe that the special meeting would be after the May 8th meeting.
That was my recollection.
Yeah, at the May 8th meeting, I would like to confirm the deadline that we need to prepare our report to the mayor and council. And I see Alderman Arnett nodding.
So
Thank you.
on the 12th of May, the finance committee will be giving the city council its report, and typically the FAC meets right after that report is rendered. And so that would be that week potentially. And so that might be a good time for you to be looking at maybe the 15th or there for so forth of May. Because the council writ large would like to get the fact input for our deliberations, and you could actually meet before the finance committee makes its recommendation just as easily, but it depends upon your druthers.
Thanks. I think it would make sense that we would receive the same information that would go to the finance committee.
Go to or come from the finance committee?
You were referring to a presentation that City Manager Gerald used to deliver to the finance committee. I think that's something similar to that if we were also to receive that.
Yeah, no, that's this week. That's the meeting on Thursday, coming week. Thursday is the work session with the council where typically we receive an overview from the city manager in concert with the finance department members. And there's two presentations, typically one on the operating budget and then a second one on the capital budget.
Thank
My
you.
recollection is that in past years, the FAC has had some sort of presentation on the capital budget at our May meeting, and then the operating budget at the following special meeting. I could be wrong, but that seems to ring a bell to me. But we'll take.
I do think you're right, and what I think that we did was we do on Thursday, the first work session, we introduced the budget, and it was the city manager, the finance director, assistant city manager for the last couple of years when Vicky's been here. And we do that presentation, and then at a following FAC meeting, I think we put together an edited version of the budget presentation for FAC. We don't go through all the slides, but I remember trimming it down and pulling out a couple of the more detailed slides to go over some of the major points with the FAC, so you would understand how the budget came together. So I don't know if that's still the plan, but it was usually at the meeting that follows the work session or something.
Yeah, that's my recollection too. So why don't you, Jody, Brittany, get us the detailed schedule timetable for the budget, then we can make sure something like that will still work. Okay? Sound like a plan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I also will add that I believe the work session may be televised. If it's televised, you can watch the full presentation on that day as well.
Comments, questions?
I was just going to add that meeting that Jody spoke on with about the debt affordability and the financial advisory board is Thursday, April 24th at 3:00.
Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome.
Comments, questions? All right. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? No? All right. Again, Joe and Peter, nice having you. Brittany, nice having you as well. And good luck to you, Brittany, as you carry on the banner.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with all of you. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Made by Peter Vale, seconded by
Second.
Jim Cardillo. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. It looks like
Aye.
everybody's had enough of the meeting and want to adjourn, so we are adjourned. And again,